Weird last wishes of prisoners before death. In the somber context of impending executions, some death row inmates have made distinctly peculiar last wishes. From unconventional last meals to idiosyncratic requests, these final expressions offer a glimpse into the diverse and often eccentric minds of individuals facing the ultimate penalty. These peculiar last wishes provide a unique lens through which to contemplate the human experience in the face of mortality and societal judgment. Number 8. Victor Feguer. Victor Feguer was a convicted murderer who gained notoriety for his unusual and symbolic last meal request before his execution. In 1963, Feguer was sentenced to death for the kidnapping and murder of Dr. Edward Bartels in Iowa. As his execution date approached, Feguer made an eccentric request for his final meal. Instead of opting for a traditional last meal, he asked for a single olive, complete with its pit. Feguer's rationale behind this peculiar choice was rooted in the belief that by consuming the olive with the pit, it would sprout and grow into an olive tree inside his body. This seemingly bizarre request reflected Feguer's attempt to express hope for a form of rebirth or renewal, even in the face of his impending execution. While the request itself may be seen as a macabre and surreal gesture, it serves as a unique and memorable footnote in the history of last meal requests from condemned individuals. Feguer was executed on March 15, 1963, making his request for the olive with the pit a curious and enigmatic aspect of his final moments. Number 7. John Wayne Gacy. John Wayne Gacy, an infamous American serial killer, was convicted of murdering 33 young men between 1972 and 1978. He was executed by lethal injection in 1994. Regarding his last meal, it's accurate that John Wayne Gacy requested a specific meal from KFC. His final meal request included a bucket of original recipe KFC fried chicken, a dozen fried shrimp, French fries, and a pound of strawberries. Gacy's choice of a KFC meal was indeed related to his past work experience. Before his criminal activities came to light, Gacy had managed 3 KFC restaurants. It's worth noting that last meal requests are often influenced by personal preferences, experiences, or in some cases, can be an attempt to communicate something about the individual's past. In Gacy's case, his final meal choice reflected his connection to the fast food chain, where he had worked as a manager before his criminal activities were exposed. Number 6. Robert Alton Harris. Robert Alton Harris was a death row inmate in California who was executed in 1992. His case attracted significant attention due to its legal and procedural aspects. Regarding the piano request, here's a more detailed explanation. In the days leading up to his execution, Harris made an unusual last wish. He wanted to play the piano as part of his final moments. However, San Quentin State Prison, where Harris was held, did not have a piano available for such requests. Prison officials and the Department of Corrections considered Harris' request, but due to the lack of a piano on the premises, they were unable to fulfill it. The denial of his request was based on practical constraints within the prison facility. It's worth noting that last-minute requests or final wishes from death row inmates are subject to various factors, including security considerations, logistical feasibility, and compliance with prison regulations. While some requests may be accommodated if they are deemed reasonable and logistically possible, others may be denied due to constraints within the prison environment. In Harris's case, the denial of the piano request did not significantly alter the course of his execution. On April 21, 1992, Robert Alton Harris was executed by lethal injection for his involvement in the 1978 murders of 2 teenage boys during a carjacking. The case marked a significant event in California's history, as it was the state's first execution in 25 years, ending a moratorium on the death penalty. Number 5. James French. The case of James French, who was executed in Oklahoma in 1966, is indeed notable for his unusual request related to a movie. James French requested to watch the film The Bridge on the River Kwai as his last request before his execution, and his request was granted. James French was a convicted murderer who was sentenced to death for killing a motorist named Eugene Moore in 1958. French, who was already serving a life sentence for a previous murder, reportedly expressed a desire to die and believed that receiving the death penalty would spare him from a life sentence in prison. Before his execution, he was quoted as saying, "How about this for a headline for tomorrow's paper? French fries." This morbid sense of humor reflected his apparent indifference to his impending execution. On August 10, 1966, James French was executed in the electric chair at the Oklahoma State Penitentiary. The authorities did grant his request to watch the movie The Bridge on the River Kwai before the execution, allowing him to view the film as part of his final moments. Number 4. Ronnie Lee Gardner. Ronnie Lee Gardner, a convicted murderer, was executed in Utah in 2010. Gardner's case gained attention because he chose an unusual last wish for his final hours on death row. His unique request was to watch the entire The Lord of the Rings film trilogy. The Lord of the Rings trilogy, directed by Peter Jackson and based on the novels by J.R.R. Tolkien, consists of 3 epic fantasy films: The Fellowship of the Ring, 2001, The Two Towers, 2002, and The Return of the King, 2003. The total runtime of the trilogy is over 9 hours. Gardner's request was fulfilled, and he spent his last hours watching the films. The decision to grant such requests often depends on the policies and discretion of the prison authorities. Number 3. William Bonin. William Bonin, also known as the Freeway Killer, was a serial killer who was convicted of brutally murdering at least 21 young men in Southern California in the late 1970s. He was sentenced to death and executed in 1996. Bonin's last meal request is often reported as having included a significant quantity of soda and chocolate ice cream. The reported details may vary, but it is commonly mentioned that he consumed 18 sodas, Coca-Cola and Pepsi, and 3 servings of chocolate ice cream. The excessive nature of his last meal has been highlighted in discussions about the final requests of death row inmates. It's important to note that last meal requests are highly individual and can vary widely among inmates. Some individuals choose traditional meals, while others make unique or unconventional requests. Bonin's reported last meal has become somewhat infamous due to the large quantity of sugary drinks and dessert involved. However, specific details about last meals can sometimes be subject to variations in different accounts, and the accuracy of such information may be influenced by factors like media coverage and public perception. Number 2. Philip Ray Workman. Philip Ray Workman was a death row inmate in Tennessee who was executed in 2007. His case gained attention because of his last meal request, which was indeed unique. Workman requested that a vegetarian pizza be delivered to a homeless person. Workman, who had become a vegetarian and an advocate for animal rights during his time in prison, wanted to use his last meal as an opportunity to help someone in need. He asked that the pizza be given to a homeless person instead of being consumed by him. Unfortunately, prison authorities denied his request, citing security concerns and the logistical challenges of delivering food to an external location. The decision sparked some controversy and discussions about the nature of last meal requests and the extent to which they could be accommodated. It's worth noting that the policies regarding last meal requests vary among prisons and jurisdictions, and the decision to grant or deny a specific request is often at the discretion of prison officials. Number 1. Lawrence Russell Brewer. Lawrence Russell Brewer was a death row inmate in Texas who was executed in 2011 for his involvement in a hate crime murder. Brewer's last meal became a subject of controversy and led to changes in Texas policy regarding last meal requests for death row inmates. The Brewer requested a substantial last meal that included a variety of items, such as 2 chicken fried steaks, a triple meat bacon cheeseburger, a cheese omelette, a large bowl of fried okra, a pound of barbecue, a half loaf of white bread, a meat lover's pizza, 3 fajitas, a pint of Bluebell ice cream, and a slab of peanut butter fudge with crushed peanuts. When the meal was delivered to Brewer, he refused to eat it, stating that he wasn't hungry. This prompted criticism and public outcry, leading to a change in Texas policy regarding last meals. In September 2011, the Texas Department of Criminal Justice discontinued the practice of allowing death row inmates to choose their last meals. The decision was made in response to Brewer's meal refusal and the belief that the practice was being abused by some inmates. The incident with Lawrence Russell Brewer's last meal has become part of the broader discussion about the ethics and practices surrounding the death penalty in the United States. Would you like it? Hit the like button and subscribe to our channels for more interesting and informative videos.